This is the Internet Broadcasting Network at ibnetwork.us.
Thanks for tuning in to Dad CFO, where we talk about those things that affect our financial lives every day. Real life application of some good old fashioned truths. We're talking real dads with real issues. So sit down, buckle up, and enjoy the ride. And if you want to be interactive with the show, you can tweet at us at DadCFO, or you can also email the show, dadcfo at ibnetwork.us. That's dadcfo at network.us. Hey, happy Tuesday, Colorado Springs. Rick Stevens, Dad CFO, here with you. Today we're going to talk about leaving a legacy. But before we jump into that, we've got to do the legal stuff here. Rick Stevens, that's me, is a financial advisor who offers securities and investment advisory services through Waddell & Reed, Inc., a broker-dealer, member of FINRA and SIPC, and a federally registered investment advisor. Insurance products are offered through insurance companies with which Waddell & Reed has sales arrangements. The information presented on this show is solely for information purposes and is not to be construed as an offer to sell or the solicitation of an offer to buy any financial product or service mentioned. Waddell & Reed does not offer tax or legal advice. Please consult with a professional prior to making any financial decisions. Any opinions expressed are those of Rick Stevens, that would be me, and may not be the opinions of Waddell & Reed. The information is subject to change based on market and other conditions. For more detailed information regarding any of the topics we discuss on today's show, please give me a call at 719-590-1871. My direct extension there is extension 115. So, leaving a legacy, and that's what we're talking about this week on Dad CFO. And I want to start out with this. There's an old proverb that says, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. So I want to ask you some questions today. Are you looking that far into the future? Are you thinking about that legacy that you're going to leave to your children's children, right? Your grandkids. Today we're going to talk about what legacy we're actually leaving, not only to the grandkids, but to our children as well, right? What are we doing that's going to affect our family tree for generations to come? Now, when you hear that word legacy, there are a lot of different things that come to a person's mind, right? If you're like many people, you may think about those material things that you're going to leave to your heirs. You might be thinking about your home. Maybe you've got a cabin in the woods somewhere. Maybe you're thinking about your business. And more often than not, we think about those things, and I use air quotes on that, those things in our lives where we spend our time. But my question is this: what is that real legacy that we leave behind? You see, I believe that we all have a legacy to leave. I believe that we can determine what sort of legacy is left behind. And even for those of us who may not have a large number of material possessions, we can still leave a legacy, and we can decide exactly what that legacy is. Now, indulge me a moment here with a little lesson. If you are somewhere that you have the ability to write this down, I want to walk you through an exercise. If you can't write it, go through this exercise in your mind, okay? Number one, write down or think about your name. Okay, that's the generation we're talking about right now, your name. So write that down. Now, below that, either write down or think about the name of one of your parents. Okay, we've gone back one generation. We've got a parent. Now go back one more with a grandparent's name. Write it down, think about it, whatever that is. We've got 3 generations now on that piece of paper. Now go one more generation to a great grandparent. And keep doing this exercise until you get to the piece where you have run out of names. Go as far back in that family tree as you can possibly remember. Here's that question. How far were you able to go back? Number one, I hope we all got our names correct, because if we didn't get our name correct, we've got some issues and we need to work on those, right? Most of us also probably got the name of at least one of our parents correct. Now, for many of us, unless our grandparents passed away before we were born, we probably have a general idea of the name of at least one grandparent. But it's usually at that great-grandparent level that folks get a little bit fuzzy. And in fact, in all the times that I've had both adults and youth do this exercise, unless they're interested in genealogy or like one of my former students, Bill Hawk VI, unless they had that name that was passed down for several generations, it's actually really rare for folks to remember back beyond that great-grandparent level. So if you've got to the great-grandparent side, you're pretty normal in that. Here's our lesson, though. If you can remember the name of a great-grandparent. See, my great-grandpa Stevens, his name was Grant, and that's actually why my son's name is also Grant. I named him after his great-great-grandpa, so he can at least go back one more generation. I want you to think about how long ago they lived. See, my great-grandpa, Grant Stevens, was born in 1890, and he died in 1960. I never personally knew him. In fact, his dad, my great-great-grandpa, passed away in the 1940s. And the 1940s are less than 100 years ago. Less than 100 years after my great-great-grandpa Stevens passed away, his name's forgotten. So if your name is forgotten in less than 100 years after your passing, what are you passing on as a legacy? See, for me, it's simple. For me, I'm passing a legacy to my kids on how to handle finances. They understand the value of money. They know how to use it as a tool. My kids understand that as a family, we give, we save, and we spend. And they also understand that, again, as a family, we stay as far away from debt as we can. You know, if we don't have the money saved to buy something, we just don't buy it. Now, perfect example of that is about a week ago, my 8-year-old was in the store with my wife. She's buying a gift for her soon-to-be 6-year-old sister's birthday. She wanted to buy something for herself, too, with some of the money she had saved. So she thought she had enough money to buy it. However, when she got to the checkout, she learned there that the thing she'd picked out for herself was actually sitting in the wrong spot on the wrong shelf. Because the shelf where it was said it was $4, but it was actually $7. And she only had that $4 to be able to spend on herself after she bought her sister's birthday present. Now, she could have turned to my wife and said, "Mom, can you pay for that?" Or she could have decided, "Hey, Mia doesn't need what I picked out. I can get something for her that's a little bit cheaper. Or, maybe I'll get something for Mia later, or maybe I'll make something at home." And if she did that, she could have kept what she picked out for herself. But instead of that, her Stevens family training kicked in. She knows that we value giving. She knew that her younger sister would really, really like that gift that she picked out. And she also knows that we value paying in full rather than borrowing money. So asking Mom for that extra money wasn't even an option. So she did what I think very few 8-year-olds would have done. She actually took the thing that she wanted and put it back on the shelf. She didn't look at Mom to rescue her. She didn't engage in a debate with the cashier about it being the wrong price and put on the wrong shelf, and you should give me that discount. She didn't do any of that. She also didn't throw a fit and try to get her own way. Was she dejected? Absolutely. Olivia has these, when she's sad, she gets these really, really big brown eyes. And I'm telling you, it is a face that will melt your heart. She was absolutely dejected. My wife even said before they left, she thought the cashier was going to cry in looking at Olivia. I mean, those are the eyes she has. She was very dejected, but Olivia also understood that if you don't have the money to buy something, borrowing it, arguing about the price, throwing a fit, none of those are the answer. Delayed gratification is the answer. See, delayed gratification keeps you from being indebted to someone simply because you thought you couldn't live without whatever it was at that exact moment in time. See, these are the moments. These are the moments that as a parent, I live for. I love to see that my kids are starting to understand the value of money. They're starting to understand its use as a tool. They're starting to understand how to be content in delaying that gratification that they want so bad. Delayed gratification, right? Those two little but not so simple words. That's the legacy that I want to leave to my kids, to future generations of Stephen's kids and grandkids and great-grandkids, and on down the line. I want to leave that legacy that money is a tool. It's a tool that we can actually use to bless others. It's a tool that we can use because our wants come at the bottom of that list, right? We give, we save, we spend, and we do it in that order on purpose. We're intentional with how we handle money. I'm leaving that legacy to those future generations that says we need to save money for our purchase rather than satisfying that immediate desire. We've got to have the new, the cool, the whatever. Rather than I've got to have it now, I'd like that. I know it's a want, and I'm going to save money towards that. See, I want my kids to understand that putting a money away for their future, whether that's to buy a car, whether that's to go to college, to someday retire, that none of those things are optional. Putting money away is expected. And I want them to understand that delayed gratification, that sacrifice of some of today's dollars for that delayed gratification through doing the planning, through finding out what do I want, how do I get that, how much is it going to cost, how long will it take me to save. I want them to understand that sacrificing some of today's dollars is actually going to pay off in the long run. See, that's the legacy that I want my kids to understand, to have, to pass on to their kids that get passed on and on and on down. See, legacy in my world is not just about the stuff. There's plenty of stuff out there. And quite frankly, when I look back at some of the things that have been passed on to me, some of the stuff that has been passed on to me, there are a couple of things from my family, from generations back, that do mean quite a bit. But there's also some stuff that I have that when I ended up with it, the first thing that happened shortly thereafter was, well, whom else can I give this to? Because, as much as I enjoyed Grandma's Tupperware, it was 50 years old. That's not really the stuff I'm looking to pass on to that next generation. See, what I want my kids to know is as they are growing up, that they can then in turn impart this wisdom to their kids, is that doing the right thing, that using your money to give, to save, and then spend, again, in that order, give, save, spend, that's going to result in the opportunity to bless others. And, in turn, you're going to be able to pay for things in the future without actually being able or having to go into debt. I do want to finish up that story, though. That story before about my 8-year-old who brought up that little thing that she wanted and she had saved the money for, and so abjectly dejected. See, that thing that she wanted, well, my wife actually went back to the store and bought it for her. Right? She didn't buy it because we don't want to see my 8-year-old sad. No, it has nothing to do with that. We didn't buy it because, oh, look how depressed she will be, and what's she going to do as she's laying on a sofa talking to her therapist when she's 40. No, it has nothing to do with that. We went back. My wife went back and bought that for her because Olivia did the right thing. She put the gift for someone else ahead of what she wanted. That right there, that's the legacy that I'm leaving to my kids, that I want them to leave to their kids, and on and on and on, right down that line in the Stevens family tree. Little disclosure here before we go to our next segment. Rick Stevens, financial advisor, offers securities and investment advisory services through Waddell & Reed, Inc., a broker-dealer, member of FINRA and the SIPC, and a federally registered investment advisor. Insurance products are offered through insurance companies with which Waddell & Reed has sales arrangements. The information presented on this show, not just today, but every day, is solely for information purposes and is not to be construed as an offer to sell or the solicitation of an offer to buy any financial product or service mentioned. Waddell & Reed does not offer tax or legal advice. Please consult with a professional prior to making any financial decisions. Those opinions expressed on Dad CFO are those of Rick Stevens, that is me and me alone, and they may not be the opinions of Waddell & Reed. The information is subject to change based on market and other conditions. For more detailed information regarding any of the topics that are discussed on today's show, please give me a call at 719-590-1871. My direct extension is 115. Again, that's 719-590-1871. My direct extension is 115. When we come back, we're talking with a husband, a father, an entrepreneur. Stay tuned because you don't want to miss it. You are listening to Dad CFO on the IB Network. Remember, if you have a question that you'd like to have answered on air, go ahead and tweet at us at DadCFO or email us, dadcfo@ibnetwork.us. We'll be right back.
RE/MAX Realtor, Colleen Allen. Colleen Allen is a professional realtor that not only cares about helping you sell your home or helping you find your dream home, she also cares about your family and your time. When you need an ally in real estate, call Colleen Allen at 719-651-7707. That's 719-651-7707. Colleen Allen, your RE/MAX ally in real estate. If you're the type of person who loves serving and helping others and is looking for financial independence, a career in massage therapy might be right for you. Massage therapy is a highly respected and enlightened practice that eases stress, relieves fatigue, soothes the aches and pains of injury and tension, and promotes overall wellness. Explore the ways that a career in massage therapy might be right for you. Collinson Massage School. Call today, 719-310-9297. That's 719-310-9297.
It gives clarity to problem solving. It increases production and focus on the job. It alleviates sleepless and restless nights and fends off stress and tension headaches. No, it's not the latest energy drink or health supplement. It's Legal Shield. Get peace of mind every day, every night, now and forever. Legal Shield. Get it.
To find out more about Legal Shield and how it can protect your family and your business, call Andrea at area code 719-243-3174. That's area code 719-243-3174. Legal Shield.
CFO. This is Rick Stevens, your host, and we are sitting here today with Pat Walter. Now, Pat is a husband, he is a father, he is an entrepreneur, and I'm going to let him tell us a little bit about himself today. So, Pat, thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
And tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah, I've been married for 16 years. We have 5 kids. Peyton is 12, Riley is 10, she's almost 11, and Casey just turned 10. And then we have Tessa, who's 7, and Quinn, who's 4.
All right, 5 of them. You're almost up with me. You're almost up with me. We got 6. So tell me a little bit about what you and your wife do for a living.
Yeah, we're a little bit non-traditional right now in this particular season. My wife works for a ministry in town. She's a web project manager, and it's a great job and a great ministry that she works for. So we've kind of focused on her career for a while, which means that I'm the stay-at-home dad. We also homeschool all of our kids, and so I'm certainly active with that, as well as trying to start a business and do a little coaching on the side too.
Awesome. Well, tell me a little bit about that business. You've got an e-commerce company called Royal Goods, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Royal Goods.
Yeah. The gist behind it was I do have the business degree and all of that. So I have that, but it's kind of an extension of that. I actually have a minor in photography, and I've always enjoyed the artistic side, if you will, and working in the Christian publishing realm for quite a while. I've appreciated many of the artists that I've seen musically, artistically, and all that. But I've noticed that a lot of times they struggle with the idea of getting their pieces out in the marketplace. And so, at least from a behind-the-scenes point of view, I've always thought that's an area that I could help an artist in. And so Royal Goods was built around the idea that perhaps we could kind of be that go-between between the artist and the marketplace. As we're starting out, I'm kind of falling back on my expertise in Christian publishing. So we are a retail store, an online retail store. But the hope is that helps support getting the artist's artwork out into the community, into the marketplace. And we might also be looking at partnering with some stores across the state and in other areas where I'm familiar with Christian stores. So
awesome. So if somebody knew an artist, whether that was, they knew a Christian artist who was a musician who did something from that photography, painting, sculpture side, how would they get in contact with you?
Yeah, they could call me directly. That's probably the easiest way to do it. It's 719-439-7215. You can reach me through email. It's royalgoodstore@gmail.com. So royalgoodstore@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, I hope that you do get some contact out of this. Now we are talking in the world about finance. We're talking to two dads about what goes on in their family. So tell me a little bit about what you guys do as a family to be financially savvy.
Yeah, we spend quite a bit of time, in this area. We set a lot of goals. I have to admit, my wife is the more organized person. I'm the more big picture kind of person. So we partner well in that way. But from the beginning, we've really chosen to, live a lifestyle that's debt free. So we don't have any debt outside of our mortgage. So that's really given us a foundation to probably get away with things that maybe we wouldn't be able to do
Definitely.
Otherwise. We do live in a budget. So that helps with the structure of it all. We certainly have our emergency fund set up. So we have savings accounts for us for emergencies. We have savings accounts for all the kids. We have various buckets. And in today's world, where at banks, you can have all kinds of different accounts. We do have more than one. We have 401k programs. We do a little bit of investing on the side. And recently, we've gotten the kids a job. So they deliver papers. Well, I drive them around and they deliver papers. And that's been fun to kind of give them the experience of earning some money. We do allowances and so forth, but the idea of them earning some money and then how that gets divvied up from there has been a pretty fascinating experience, just seeing them process that and see where the money goes and how they need to take care of it and so forth. So.
Awesome. Well, the idea here that you're the big picture guy is a normal idea. That's why it's Dad CFO, right? The chief financial officer. He's got the big picture idea on the family. He's not the day-to-day accountant. He doesn't know all the receivables and payables. What are some of those things that you find most rewarding as you're working through your family's finances?
Well, I think, for me, I think achieving some of those goals, those big picture goals, is huge. So, we're not to a point where we have so much money in the account that we can just pay cash for a nice car. And we need to have something that's at least newer and reliable and safe. So we don't go new,
Yes.
but we need a large third row vehicle. And that costs money. So we put as much down as we can, but then the satisfaction of paying that off early, like we usually try to double up or dump extra money or what have you in to get that paid off. And, things like that are pretty rewarding.
Yeah, it's always awesome to be able to see those goals and to attain them before you got to that endpoint in there. As a dad, then, what do you find to be the most challenging about the family's finances?
Yeah, it plays off your earlier comment. I am not the best at the day-to-day, the cash flow management side, if you will. We've kind of partnered to develop a system for us where we're both inputting stuff day-to-day, but I find that to be fairly challenging to be able to manage what's happening with so many different expenses coming in and stuff. There's just a lot of detail, and that's not my strength, so I have to spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, I think in most families today, we do see that you have the bookkeeper and you have the big picture person, and rarely are they the same in the family. So usually a very normal occurrence there. Talk a little bit. You started to allude to it here, but talk a little bit about how you and your wife communicate with one another about those finances.
Yeah, I think we, a couple of things. I think we use technology to communicate. So, for example, right now we have a budget, and they are virtual envelopes, if you will. And so to fill those accounts up so that we know where our spending is, we share a Google Docs account, and we both are in there, and we are inputting. Me being the stay-at-home dad, I tend to have the grocery receipts and lots of gas receipts because we shuttle kids to different places.
Yes.
And so I'm just as active, if not more so, in that area. So for us to communicate, we just have a shared document that we dump all of our receipts in so we can track where we're at over the course of the month. In addition to that, we have set aside Sunday nights, a little bit of time, probably more so for our marriage and emotional stuff, but we do talk about financial stuff and things that we need as part of that discussion as well.
Yeah, and that's really a huge piece when we're talking about marriage, when we're talking about finances, is that communication side in there, and it spills over into so many different areas that we have in our lives. When was it that you guys decided to make your finances a priority in the family?
I think we've always had them be a priority at some level. I think, really even before we got married, there were certain goals that we had set aside, and some we've achieved well and some we're still working on. But I think that was one of the areas that we, really shared the same perspective on. I think she was better at it than me.
Mm-hmm.
She went into our marriage debt-free, whereas I wasn't quite there yet. But I think that, because of that, we both have the perspective that we just really want to not have any debt so that we can have flexibility with, other parts of our life.
Yeah. And that's, again, that's one of those huge pieces that obviously not everybody is blessed to start the marriage completely debt-free. But I will tell you that it is an awesome feeling once you hit that point, and you never want to go back if you can at all help it. I will wholeheartedly agree with you there. Talk to us about some of those professionals in your life that you actually seek counsel from in that financial world. I know you talk about having a business background and also having a business background myself. I know there's a finance component to that, but who are some of those professionals that you use in your financial life? Yeah,
I'm not sure you're going to like what I have to say about that, but I mean, we really don't have many people that we turn to. I mean, I'm fortunate with a finance background a little bit. I do have some friends that are accountants and stuff, and so I do pick their brain from time to time. We've had financial advisors in the past for our 401ks and things like that. We have a will. So we have talked to a lawyer and set up a will and stuff so that we know that our kids will be taken care of properly if we were to pass away. So I think we've managed to get the most important things in order, but in terms of, maybe our day-to-day or some of the long-term financial stuff, we're kind of a do-it-yourself family at this point.
Yeah, well, you're not alone in that. There are a great number of folks who are on that do-it-yourself side, but I hear a lot of good things in there. There are folks you've talked to along the way, and also having sort of that background in that area. Maybe I'll ask you this: as someone with that background, why have you picked the brains of some accountants and worked with attorneys in the past?
Well, I think I realized that my knowledge, even though academically it's there's still missing pieces to it. And it's nice to get a fresh set of eyes to take a look at your problem or your situation, and to be able to work through that with the advice of other people, I think is very, very helpful to be able to do that. And I'm fortunate that I have friends. One friend is a CFO for a church in town, and, a very trusted friend that we could talk to. I do have another friend who's a controller with a company in town, and he does our taxes. So he's somebody that I can turn to. We're blessed to have a number of people that we can turn to when things get a little tricky.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing here as well is that in those situations, in those times where you feel like maybe I don't have enough information, that trust is really a big key in who you're going to talk to in that world.
Well, I think everybody's life situation is different, and to have people in your life that know those circumstances that make you unique, I think that's what helps me in spilling out to somebody and getting some trusted advice back, something that I can actually work with. They just know our circumstances, they know our condition to at least some level to be able to answer honestly but helpfully.
Yeah. One final question here to wrap up this segment of everything, and that's this. What is the one piece of advice if you met someone who was a new husband or a new dad, or maybe who wasn't brand new but had been in this for a while but was struggling with their financial life? what's that one piece of advice that you would give them about their financial lives?
Yeah, now I know I said I have a finance background, but in this particular case, I can't count. So I have two things that I wanted to share here. I think first and foremost, I think everybody has to have both accountability and support. And, whether that's on a professional level or personal level, as long as it's there, I know for me, I need that accountability. I need somebody kicking me in the rear end from time to time and, setting me straight. And at the same time, I need the encouragement. Am I doing the right things? And if I'm headed in the right direction, am I putting in the work to make those things happen? And so it's nice to have some partners in that area. I wish I had discovered that when I was younger. I wish that I had had a mentor at a younger age, especially like right after getting married would have been an ideal time to really have somebody, maybe readjust my course 1 degree or 2 degrees so that I could have made better decisions. And you don't see that in the foolishness of your youth and
never.
So, for me, I certainly wish that I had more accountability and support at that stage of life for sure. The other thing that I thought was kind of important was just the idea of starting small. Like for us, when we got married, I had a college loan. And for us to get debt-free, we needed to get rid of that. And it wasn't a huge payment, but it was something that was a barrier to one of our goals. And so I needed to pay that off. And so we worked very hard. We were at a phase where we were both, full-time, no kids, which was kind of nice. And so we could really be diligent about paying off that debt and eliminating it from our budget. And that's what we did. And there was satisfaction in that, but also it was a way for us to start small with setting some of the bigger goals, because that freed up a couple $100 that we could dump into savings. And I'm so grateful that time when we were both working full time, we could sock some money away, because you can't do that when you're at home with 5 kids and
very difficult,
life gets crazy. Yeah, it's just I'm very grateful that we set ourselves up for a season where we would live more paycheck to paycheck, and so I think being able to start small by paying off that debt and setting some goals for us when we were younger and both working really set us up for being able to live comfortably and do things with the kids that maybe we couldn't have done if we weren't responsible at an earlier age.
Well, actually, as I look at that, it really wasn't 2 answers. You're okay at counting, because I know a guy that would have said that's part A and part B. So it's part A, part B of that same answer in there about that idea of accountability. Having someone there along the way, and even as newlyweds, you and your wife, there's the accountability there in working at that goal together. So when we come back in just a few, Pat gets to turn the tables on me, but before we head out, the legal piece again. Rick Stevens, financial advisor, offers securities and investment advisory services through Waddell & Reed, Inc., a broker-dealer, member of FINRA and SIPC, and a federally registered investment advisor. Insurance products are offered through insurance companies with which Waddell & Reed has sales arrangements. The information presented on this show is solely for information purposes and is not to be construed as an offer to sell or the solicitation of an offer to buy any financial product or service mentioned. Waddell & Reed does not offer tax or legal advice. Please consult with a professional prior to making any financial decisions. Any opinions expressed are those of Rick Stevens, that would be me, and may not be the opinions of Waddell & Reed. The information is subject to change based on market and other conditions. For more detailed information regarding any of the topics we discuss on today's show, give me a call, 719-590-1871. My extension is 115. I will look forward to hearing from you there. Stay tuned, because Pat's going to turn the tables on me when we come back. You are listening to Dad CFO on the IB Network. Remember, if you have a question that you'd like to have answered on air, go ahead and tweet at us at DadCFO or email us dadcfo@ibnetwork.us. We'll be right back. Struggling with your family's financial situation? Is the word budget a dirty word in your household? Have you always looked for a way to put money away for the future, but never really known how to do it? Then join us Tuesdays at 10 and 4 on TuneIn by searching at the IB Network, or find us online at ibnetwork.us. Dad CFO, where our goal is to help you put some good old-fashioned truths into practice. Real dads with real stories. We talk about those things that really matter and how to lead our families financially. We're looking forward to hearing from you as you hear from us.
Warmth and comfort. That's what you expect your heating system to provide. And that's what you can also expect when you call Harris Heating and Cooling. Harris Heating and Cooling makes you feel comfortable in your environment, whether it's residential or commercial, and they take care of repairs in a snap. Now, Harris Heating and Cooling is a family business, and they treat you like family. That means honest answers and affordable service. Call 719-203-5479 for a free no-obligation estimate and use your coupon from our flyer for even more savings. So when your furnace needs help, make sure your first call is to Harris Heating and Cooling. 719-203-5479. That's 203-5479. Harris Heating and Cooling.
Paperback Writer.
Don't miss Beatles in the Morning with Tim, weekday mornings at 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. on IB Rock, part of the IB Network. See you there.
It gives clarity to problem solving. It increases production and focus on the job. It alleviates sleepless and restless nights and fends off stress and tension headaches. No, it's not the latest energy drink or health supplement. It's Legal Shield. Ouch! Get peace of mind every day, every night, now and forever. Legal Shield. Get it.
To find out more about Legal Shield and how it can protect your family and your business, call Andrea at area code 719-243-3174. That's area code 719-243-3174. Legal Shield.
Programming produced by and for the Internet Broadcasting Network can be found on TuneIn. Be sure to take us with you by using the TuneIn app on all your mobile devices. This is the IB Network.
Hey, thanks for sticking around with us. This is Rick Stevens, your host on Dad CFO. And our final segment here today, Pat gets to turn those tables on me. He gets to ask a few questions. He is the interviewer. I am the interviewee. So, Pat, fire whenever you're ready.
All right, Rick. Well, thanks for joining us today. My first question, I think, goes to the heart of what I had mentioned earlier about the area that I am most challenged with in managing our money for our family, and that is, the cash flow piece, the balancing checkbook piece. And so, what advice would you give me in regards to how best to manage that? Is there software for that? Is there programs that you recommend or use to help track those day-to-day spending requirements?
Well, I'm actually going to start out with what, again, folks who listen to the show have heard me say this more than once, the perfect graduate school answer. And that is, it depends. For me and my wife, what we have done over the years is we actually have an Excel spreadsheet. It's very basic. It's very simple, and we track those. We still, to this day, use actual envelopes. We haven't even moved technologically into the virtual envelope. We actually have actual envelopes in our desk where we put each receipt that we've got. From there, we actually then take that once a month. We actually have it on our calendar, update budget, and we take those receipts once a month. We plug them into Excel, and we see kind of that how we're doing in there along the line. There are all kinds of places where you can actually use a variety of apps. There's a really awesome one out there called Mint. I know that a lot of folks use. There are a variety of different pieces out there. The name escapes me of one of them right now, but you can actually take a picture of your receipt, and it will automatically store that in the software for you. But I've completely lost the name of that because you asked me what the name of it was. It's how that mind works. Apparently when the hair goes, some of the brain matter goes with it. But really, the short answer to that is you want to find a system that works for you. I know some folks that actually enter things daily because they are that meticulous. I know folks that do it once a week. I know folks that do it once a month. So whatever it is that works well for you, that's really the sort of that system behind how you want to go about it.
So am I nuts to think that there's two pieces to this? I mean, we have like our budget piece, and we keep track of the envelopes, if you will, that way. But then there's a cash flow piece where, because we have different savings buckets, our checking account is kind of geared towards the budget.
Right.
And so, it can cut pretty close, or, we could get in trouble if we don't pay attention. And so I think that's the piece that, specifically I'm asking about, and you're saying that essentially your checkbook is your Excel spreadsheet. Is that
very, very similar? Yes, although we actually do a lot at my house on credit cards, because we monitor how we're doing on the rewards with those, and we pay them off each month. So yeah, you sort of have that checkbook Excel spreadsheet piece. But you're not nuts in looking at it from two sides. There's the cash flow side, which is really that more proactive side of it. That cash flow side is, this is what I started with. This is how it has dwindled down, sort of the old school envelope system of, I have $20 to spend on X whatever category this month. I've put my $20 in the envelope, and we've just kind of whittled it down through there. Again, that's a place where I sort of take a look at that through my spreadsheet, because I have my budgeted amount, my actual amount, and then I know if we were up or down based on what we wanted to do from there. In terms of things that will monitor cash flow, I am not perfectly familiar with any, but I'll guarantee you that whether you're a Mac user, whether you're an Android user, somewhere in the store, there's going to be an app for that.
Great. So my next question is, savings rates are not real rewarding right now. So are there alternatives for, I'll give two examples. We have an emergency fund, which is just that. It's intended to not be tapped, or tapped as little as possible. So that's something that we can sock away somewhere a little longer term. But then we have some of our short-term savings goals, like saving for a down payment on a truck, or something like that. And so, what are good places to put our money that makes it still accessible, but where we can get more than a 0.85% percentage rate?
That 0.85%, that's one of those things where, and especially because if you've got it at a bank that is FDIC insured, in my line of work, that's what we talk about, losing money safely, guaranteed by the government, because you're not growing that money even at the inflation rate. So it's actually buying less than what it would have on the back end. One of those things that I talk to folks about is if you have that, say, 3 month, 6 month, whatever emergency fund, that you've got that many months worth of expenses, and you set those aside, you still want to keep a piece of that in cash, because that's still going to be on a fairly low risk side of the world, that cash piece. But you also want to look at some of the lower risk investment pieces to that, whether those are, say, some limited term bonds, something that you may not, I don't need necessarily the money next week, but if I needed it next month, I could still get that money out. But the goal is to grow it at that faster rate than just sitting it in the bank. I actually work with folks all the time to set up things like their emergency fund accounts. And, we really need X amount of it in cash, but we're willing to take another piece of that and try to grow it a little. We're not talking about high risk penny stock kind of crazy things here. What we're really talking about is something on that long-term, slow and steady. I might get 3% in a year, but guess what? That's more than 2% more than I was getting at the bank, kind of a piece.
Great. All right. Next question. My wife and I, between the two of us, over the 16 years plus that we've been married, have worked different jobs and so forth. So we have multiple 401ks in multiple places. Is there an advantage to combining those into one place?
Well, one of the big things that you've got to look at is, because you're no longer with a particular employer, you are now getting charged most likely the fees on the maintenance of those accounts. Generally, one of the perks that an employer gives to active employees is that they pay the management fees that are associated with that. But when somebody leaves, more often than not, what happens is that those fees now get charged to you. The other piece to that also is kind of looking at how much control you want over where those pieces are invested. One of the big things that I see oftentimes with folks, and I actually sat down with a guy maybe 6 weeks ago, had 5 different 401ks that were at places he had worked at. And what he really wanted to be able to do is to control the investments that were in there. So when they're under your control, you've rolled those over into an IRA, you can decide what it's invested in. Otherwise, you're kind of left at the mercy of whatever the company decides is available inside that 401k. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of really good 401ks out there. And if you've got one that is doing really well and you like what's in it, by all means, leave it in there if the fees aren't too extravagant on that for you. But one thing that's really, really a nice thing to do is if you combine them, you have the control over it, and you actually see how much money you really have socked away, because the guy I was talking to had 5 different 401ks. None of them had more than $15,000, and he didn't really think that he had that much money put away until he looked at it and put them all together and went, I actually have closer to $70,000 socked away here. I had no idea I had that much. So it kind of gives a little clarity in that piece as well if you go through and combine them. And really the fee structure is one of those big pieces you want to look at and find out how much am I really getting charged versus how much would I get charged if I just put them in my own IRA.
Great. All right, next question. We got to talk about Royal Goods a little bit ago, and we're obviously a very small, just starting out kind of a business, a long way from profitability. Hopefully not, but nonetheless, we're certainly not profitable yet. So, is there an advantage? Like, it's an LLC right now. I guess I'm kind of wondering how to manage that piece, how that ties into my personal finances. Certainly, I'm dumping some of my own spending in to keep it going and so forth. But is there any advantages to tying that in with my personal, like, tax reports and stuff at some point, or am I missing something there? That's really my question. That's
actually a great question, because I know there are a lot of folks out there who do have that home-based business, whether they have incorporated it, whether they've set it up as an LLC or an S corp or whatever the case may be, and that's an awesome question. I don't have a great answer, though, for that. But the awesome piece of that is I know some guys who do. I know guys who basically specialize in that, working with folks who have LLCs and help folks along the way. I know there are going to be pluses and minuses on both sides of that, really in how you take care of that on your taxes. But that's actually not an area I specialize in. However, I do know folks who do. So
great. So I want to go back to your kids and just how you leave your legacy, if you will. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about that in the first segment. What does the structure of how you communicate that to your kids look like? And what kind of tools do you use to kind of help them sort out all their choices and prepare them for the choices that when they're at the grocery store or what have you?
Well, one of the things that we do is we don't keep finances necessarily secret at home. We actually talk about it and why it's an important part of our lives. For my kids, like yours, who have that paper route going, even though Dad's doing the driving, they're finding how to earn money. We do different things around our house where kids can actually earn based on chores they do. I do subscribe to the philosophy that there are some things you do because you're part of the family, because they are acts of love and they're not optional acts of love. Things like making your bed is not an optional act of love. Doing the dishes is not an optional act of love. But there are things that my kids do around the house where they actually earn money. For example, my 5, soon to be 6-year-old, she actually gets paid a quarter anytime she folds the towels and washcloths. So she's learning that I go out and I do work and I can get paid for doing that work. For Olivia, the 8-year-old, she's got different things. It's fall, so she gets to go out and pull sticks out of the yard. She gets to sweep off the deck. She earns for that. Ellie earns, the soon-to-be 11-year-old actually earns money for doing some things with her 3-year-old sister, for getting her up, getting her dressed, for getting her ready for bed, doing her bath, all those sorts of things. So she's learning about earning money for those. For Grant, anything basically he does outside that I don't have to do, I am willing to pay for all of that work. But then my kids, when they get paid actually in 3 segments. And each one of them has a different proportion, but they get paid in their give money, they get paid in their save money, and they get paid in their spend money. And their spend money can be something that they go spend it on next week. It could be something they do with their short-term savings in there. The save pile, that's really the long term. This is some of the dollars we're going to use later when you're ready for a car or when you're ready for college, that sort of piece. But we're very intentional with this is the give, and there's always a give. It doesn't matter if it was $10 that Grandma sent for birthday money. There's a give that's part of that. There's a save that's part of that, and there's a spend that's part of that. And with each of our kids, we also try to kind of help them through the decision-making process in there. Grant had probably now almost 2 months ago was looking for some shoes because he's at that age where every 2 weeks it seems like he outgrows a pair. And he and my wife went out shopping for shoes. He came home. He's got a pair of gray tennis shoes. I asked him, "Hey, pretty cool. Why'd you pick those?" He said, "Well, I actually like the black ones better, but they were $10 more, and I didn't think Mom needed to spend the extra $10. So somewhere along the line, those things are clicking on how we make those decisions. And there are times I actually take my kids shopping with me, and we'll talk through, well, here are these 2 products. Here's what each one of them costs. Which one should we buy? Well, let's take a look and see what's in them, what it's about, and make that informed decision.
That's great. One thing that we do that's very similar to that is I do what I call my 10, 20, 30, 40 rule. And so we have 10% to give, 20% that goes to the bank, and then we split 30% so they can buy all the junk that they're captivated
yes.
by. And then the 40%, we set some larger goals for them so that they can be, saving for a tablet or, all those more expensive candy items that they do. And that seems to work, but, just getting them to really be thinking about savings and stuff is kind of an ongoing thing. So
yeah, it is. You know, we got a flyer, and I don't remember which of the office supply stores it was. That was, you know, probably about a week ago, and the tablet that Grant wants was on sale. And he looked at that because he's been saving for this thing for probably 4 or 5 months now. And he said, you know, if I hadn't bought whatever it was, I don't remember, but if I hadn't bought that back in February, I'd have enough money to buy that now. So that's that awesome piece where you get to see that the kids really do have it kind of figured out in there. Well, I hear the music in my ear. That means it is time to go for today. Pat, thank you for joining us on Dad CFO. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to tune in next week for that next, I guarantee it to be exciting, Dad CFO. We'll talk to you then. Hey, thanks again for tuning in to the show. Remember, if you have a question that you'd like to have answered on air, you can tweet at us at DadCFO, or you can also email us. That's dadcfo@ibnetwork.us. Well, actually, don't forget to tell all your friends. You can also download the TuneIn app to follow us there, or you can find us online at ibnetwork.us. Again, that's B, network.us. Take a look at our show as well as all of the other great shows that are on there as well.
Set a reminder for Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. and join Rick Stevens for Dad CFO on the IB Network. Thank you for joining us. Programming produced by and for the Internet Broadcasting Network can be found on TuneIn. Be sure to take us with you by using the TuneIn app on all your mobile devices. This is the IB Network.